he'll have a pulse of the board, and then he can direct us, and if it comes out where the west side of the county, we have a plan that won't match, I said, we'll just have something to put on the, table until it gets modified.
That's right.
So, I think we'll get something good.
I do too. I do too. The questions that were being asked a little while ago were really good questions, and I told him, I said, you can't ask me. I will not answer. I said, I will not violate the board procurement registry policy. He was like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to step on any landmines. I was like, you're not stepping on landmines, it's just an opportunity for us to get things right. All right.
One thing that we're gonna talk about, I'm gonna need, committee, a selection committee, people denoted to review these statement of qualifications when they come in.
Well, pick a chair.
Hey, sir, how are you?
I'm doing great.
This is Mitchell Perkins, he's a landowner down in the Tri-County area.
Good to see you.
I'm Joseph Johnson. Joseph's our engineer now in the water authority, and Wade Cannon is our vice chair. Mitchell Perkins.
Nice to meet you.
And Mr. Perkins called me frustrated, as you might expect from years of being told one day we're gonna get sewer and never getting sewer, so I said, all thing I do is bring you over here and let him listen, you'll see when he's done citing on what we just went through here.
Okay.
No, the gutter people are gone.
Is that your bird?
Yeah, I'm gonna get wise cameras now, just to see if they've gone. They picked up their trash. They hadn't, I was gonna stop that payment.
Who did your gutters?
Magnum Roofing and Gutter.
Okay.
I'd call like 5 people. We started at $4,500. I think they wound up doing it for $29.82.
Well, I've been trying to get a landscaper out of my house to do some work on at the front of our driveway. I haven't been able to get anybody to show up. I'm like, this is crazy.
You can't get help. Can't get parts, can't get help.
How you been?
Good, good to see you.
Good to be seen.
So, Mr. Morrow wanted me to tell you, we have a sewer feasibility study that the Water Authority has advertised right now, where engineers are going to provide us, the ultimate goal is to provide a plan that's specifically looking at these 4 areas inside the county, with Tri-County being one of them,
Okay.
to find an economically feasible way to provide sewer in these locations. So, long, short answer, I can't tell you anything today, but I will be able to tell you that the board will have the knowledge and the direction, give us 8 to 12 months, and we'll have something.
Well, I started out my conversation with Dick the other day. I was in the meeting in December when, I think it was a recap of where everybody was in Spalding County with sewer.
Mhm.
That Grant Keller was actually putting on, it was through the city.
Okay.
And Dick got up and said something that I hadn't heard in 35 years in doing business in Spalding County. And that was, I'd like to pull Spalding County and the city of Griffin together and work to pull this problem to a conclusion.
That's right.
And that encouraged me.
I think,
The
so,
existence of y'all's committee encourages me.
Well, we've talked to them already. It's early discussions about conveying sewer. What we're doing today is, or what that meeting was about earlier, was us exploring building our own sewer system plants, which is an expensive proposition.
Sure.
And we've talked about conveying sewer, which I don't know if you know or not, the Tri-County area, as of right now, is not actually our service area. The city has said they're willing to negotiate and give it up,
no,
but as of right now, it's not our
Yeah, I
service
got it.
area. It's actually the city of Griffin service area. So that's,
Well,
we've been talking about that too.
Yeah, my understanding.
Something went wrong. Please try again.
I hate Siri, I really do.
My understanding of sewer in Spalding County is it's the cities.
Yes and no. So, the reason why that is a fair statement, and most people would feel that way, is because if you look at the land use plan for Spalding County, So, one thing that the engineers that were here were discussing is saying, okay, well, if we come up with a plan and the current land use would need to be modified, are you gonna get the land use modified to match what you would need to justify sewer? And I was like, that's a valid concern and question. Put your best foot forward, basically, give us a plan that works, and then it's up to the Board of Commission to say, no, we're not doing it, and if you don't do it, okay, we have a plan for when you do it, because you will eventually have to. Because there's only so much real estate, and everybody seems to be moving south. So, you're either gonna have a plan for it or you're not. So, we'll have something ready to go in the event we finally start modifying these plans. But I think the authority is making some pretty good strides and going in the right direction where when developers come in, we're gonna say, yes, we do have a plan, we don't have anything on the ground, but this is, now we can talk about it.
Well, that's refreshing.
Yes, sir.
I haven't been able to.
So we are
But I can pull that
cautiously
one.
optimistic.
it's okay.
I don't know if I mentioned to you, but last 2-3 years, I've been back on this thing. We've gone around, 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 and we finally said, hell, this is so
Okay, y'all don't
complicated.
have me arrested.
All these different opportunities and directions. We need an engineering firm to just study and tell us where to start. These are not cheap decisions, so you hate to blow them.
And you don't wanna recreate a wheel either.
That's right. So the good news is, you know, I was over at the city a lot of times, so have a good working relationship. When we finally got past this, we hate one another thing, we can work together, and the city's on board with discussing joint projects.
So what I'm thinking is
Yep.
when you see that.
These things are never easy because nobody wants to jeopardize their business model.
I think it's a blurb, I'm not really worried about
But-
it, this was because of X, Y, Z.
Anyway, you'll get a flavor of what we're doing
And
anyway.
then those are the little conversations where then you'll have
Okay.
that update.
Okay, yeah, I don't see any sense in meeting unless you have something to do about.
Yes, ma'am.
Hey, Joseph,
Yeah.
how hard is it gonna be to put a shorter mag meter in place of an old long one? It's a 9-inch difference in length.
They're gonna have to,
Cut the pipe and
they'll have to
mag it
fill,
like it or something?
they'll have to fill modify, they'll get a spool piece that's measured. They'll probably just have American Pipe make a spool piece that dimension, cause it's flanged, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a Rosemont mag meter, yeah.
You better go ahead and order it now.
But it's a 9-inch, there's a 9-inch length difference.
Hello, Wade.
How are you today?
Here. Thinking I've been all over the city today.
Yeah.
I was in NIMS training this morning. National Incident Monitoring System.
Oh, yes, NIMS, I remember that. We had that at GMA, and I'm going,
So,
God, I'm sitting there going, what?
yeah, I'm gonna need to take ICS or ISC training 100, 200, and then NIMS training 700 and 800 because they are for water system resiliency and safety. In the event that there's ever an issue on our water system and the emergency operations calls us in, come to find out, they get grant money if people are certified and they have the training courses.
You ain't done yet?
I didn't know I needed to. This is another thing I'm putting on my list.
Wife told me they just passed something, I guess Steve had told them that they're going to text 911.
They're gonna what, tax?
Text.
Yeah, I saw that.
I think this is a,
She's so looking forward to it.
I could only imagine, that's gonna be a terrible idea. They're gonna be inundated.
Apparently Fayette County gets a bunch of inappropriate pictures is what they wind up getting.
I can only imagine.
Yeah, I can too.
Cheryl, have you met Mitchell?
But now it's gonna be the law.
Chairman, was nice to meet you.
Mitchell is a property owner down in the Tri-County area that's been
Okay.
frustrated, I think that's a fair word, for many years.
About 35.
But who's counting?
I actually bought from the city, I bought the easement across Engel's property attached to sewer. When I built McDonald's.
Mm-hmm.
And, hadn't really needed it in Flowers. Hadn't needed it since 2004, but now, we need it and we're being told there's no capacity. And I've got one business that has a water usage of verified usage less than 500 gallons a day. And
They go to Shoal Creek.
Sure does.
Yeah.
Sure does. Yeah, there was a car wash that was in yesterday for pre-construction that's going beside the liquor store on the other side of the road.
calculus book and bought it, but I still haven't gotten really into it.
You love calculus?
Huh?
Did you say you love
Oh, I do
calculus?
love calculus.
I did, yeah. Well, at UGA in engineering, University of Missouri in engineering, I was in civil engineering. You didn't have, there was no class participation requirement. If you could pass, you didn't have to go to class. So after first semester calculus, I took the midterm and the finals. I didn't bother to go to class the rest of the time. I can sit down, read the book and figure, oh, this, I don't know, it just clicks.
I was never gifted in math, and it's funny, my daughter, you would think I hung the moon in math. She was like, Dad, you can answer any question I have. I'm like, when you go to bed, that's when I figure out the answer, and then we'll talk about it in the morning. I was like, but if you think I'm this genius, please don't, I thank you for the compliment, but I am not that sharp.
And what year is she?
She is going into 9th grade, and she's been selected to get into advanced math, and I said, Maddie, are you sure you wanna
And
do
you
this?
said, and from now on, I probably won't be able to
Yeah.
help you.
Don't discourage her, because most of these kids are so stupid they can't make change, let alone do math.
Oh, gosh, my sister went to McDonald's one time and her change was 84 cents. The woman had to give it to her in dimes.
Oh, wow.
She couldn't count it in quarters.
But I tell you, my youngest one, she's 10. We were at Science Olympiad over the weekend, and this girl, I was like, did you just use a calculator? She said, no. You didn't know how to do that? I said, sure I did.
I just wondered
Absolutely,
if you
yeah.
did.
I'm just tired.
Well, I wonder where Miss Delaney is. She, oh, did we hear from any of the others? Well, it'll be a slim group tonight, but that's okay. We got the people we need.
Miss Delaney is supposed to be here. I even checked with her this morning again, so I'm not.
Well, we'll
really
give her a
sure.
couple minutes.
I'll throw this away.
This trash can.
Probably
In the
like
restroom?
I'm glad to hear that the car wash is pushing through.
Yes, I told community development, they don't, just because the environmental health said that they're not gonna approve the septic system, they'll approve it if they have a letter from the city saying they'll allow it. Because they're using that justification, if you're within, 400 feet of sewer, you have to tie the sewer. But there's a, you gotta have capacity.
There he is. Hi, Chuck.
That's it.
And that's pretty serious.
I believe so.
Well,
Pick your poison.
As long as the floor doesn't fall out from under me when I sit.
Chuck here is the chair of the Industrial Authority, and we're talking, and this is Mitchell Perkins, down here.
Down there.
Mitchell Perkins, yeah.
Nice to see you.
Mitchell is a landowner down the Tri-County area and frustrated about sewer, so as you've talked to a lot of frustrated about sewer people, I know.
That's right, that's right.
There's Miss Delaney. Well, good afternoon. Come sit over here where we can see you.
Here. No, I don't have to be seen. I have.
Oh, yeah, we want to see you. I like your top there, your little shirt thing. I like that. That's pretty.
Got a little sparkly to it
A
there.
little sparkly to it.
Well, thank you, y'all just made my day.
Well,
Because
this,
it's-
this group needs a little sparkly.
Well, you made my day, 'cause I don't ever see you anymore.
I don't get it, that much of a sense.
Miss Delaney, I was just telling them, this is Mitchell Perkins. He's a landowner down in the Tri-County area that wonders if he's ever gonna get sewer.
Praise the Lord, bless you, honey, I'm on the same thing.
So, I told him I didn't know if I could give him any hope, but at least he could see where we are. I'm gonna go on and call the meeting to order then. I need a motion to adopt the agenda. So moved, a second?
I can't do that because I'm not on your committee.
Sure you are. Well, but you're gonna do it to make the motion.
I'll make the motion.
And you're gonna second?
I second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye. Okay, none opposed, I assume. We're going to run just quickly, a few old business items and bring you up to date, and then we'll get the chewing down there on the new business. So, Joseph, you wanna run through those with us?
Yes. So the first item was, it was discussing how the different municipalities' policies were to require developers to tie to public water systems. Well, the only county that has anything remotely close to requiring a developer is to tie to public water is when you hit a 6 lot threshold and you're within 200 or 2,500 feet of a water line.
Hey, Steph?
Then they require you to tie onto it. So I'm still doing some research to figure out if there's any other municipality that we could kind of use to craft our idea or understanding, but it's my understanding from our weekly plan review meetings that the county manager and the fire department would like to have something that would have a little bit more teeth to it, to put the onus on the developer to extend, to start running these water lines and not the water authority paying for them. So, I spoke to a developer just yesterday on that Moore Road and Hardy Lane parcel. I told him if he did do this and subdivided the property, he would be running it to the corner of his last lot. And I said, you know, the water authority could entertain adding the additional footage to a couple thousand feet to tie back into bicycle. So we're starting to put it out there, but right now it's just gonna be a recommendation until we have a policy. And if anybody fights us on it, they're gonna say, well, show me where in your rules it requires me to do that, and unfortunately, we don't have it.
Do we make that policy, or does the county commission make that policy?
I think what we would do is help the county commission. correct
You
me
would
if I'm
make a
wrong.
recommendation?
Yes.
Okay.
We would help craft that with the fire department, where the county would approve it, and then now we would have something to refer to.
In my mind, there are two major reasons for potentially requiring people to connect. One is, it assists us in our looping system, because if you got somebody sitting here, then you don't force it, you can't loop it. So we have a benefit to our system, but also, of course, I served on the Upper Flint Water Authority, Governor chose, for years, and the state water plan mandates, if you're gonna withdraw 100,000 gallons or more, you have to be metered. All the ag people that meter to have wells and so on. So you get to the point, the spirit of the state water plan is to keep track of all the water, what we have and what's available. And if we let these guys come in there and start building 15, 20 houses and putting in wells, you sort of violate the state water plan. There's no particular prohibition against that. But they're using more than 100,000 gallons a day, then you got an issue. So in the spirit of the water plan, we need to consider being able to track how much water is pulled out of the ground, where it's used and where it goes. Because here in the Flint River District, we're the most overburdened and stressed water system in the entire state. So those are a couple big things that have to come into this discussion. And of course, you don't want to kill some guy who's financially, because he doesn't come close to one of our water pipes. On the other hand, there are good reasons to make him put on our water pipes, plus fire protection too is always a consideration, so.
Well, our current one is the whole adjacent thing, right?
Yeah.
That's what we currently do have a policy,
So
don't we?
all right, there,
I know we talked about what the word adjacent meant for 2 years.
and there's a 500-foot caveat to it, where that 500-foot that the fire department uses is actually, it's a maximum of 500 feet. It could be as close as 250 feet, depending on the fire flow requirement for that home or that structure. So, there's a lot of beefing up of our specifications that we need to do in conjunction with all these different documents.
But
So,
the 500 feet's for the fire protection, the fire hydrants.
yep, but it could
But
be.
we're talking about our water lines,
Correct.
which of course the hydrants are hooked to.
Mhm.
So they have a policy already for 500 foot for fire hydrants, right?
as maximum distance, but it ties it back to the fire code, which is a function of available fire flow. So if it can't hit, say there's a threshold where if anything less than 1,750 gallons a minute requires maybe a spacing of 400 feet. Or if there's a certain classification of a building, it could require every 250 feet. So we should kind of mirror that language and point everybody to the right thing. So 500 feet's a maximum distance.
See, I talked to a developer, here's what comes up. He wants to chop up a farm, put houses on it. I don't think he had a real problem with putting in water system for his development, but it was a couple thousand feet to our water pipe. And he goes, my God, that's tens of thousands of dollars to get to my property. If you brought it up here, I'd pay for all this, but I'm not paying 2,000 feet, which somebody else is gonna benefit from. So, you know, there's two parts of this. If you're gonna require this, do you have how far you'll pay to get it to him, or split the cost, something. Anyway, it's a serious discussion we need to have, so, not today, but that's where we are on this.
So Dick, does that mean too, and we have to maybe weigh the wells versus lines going?
Yes, plus if you skip this and then somebody does on the other side, they can't get water because you're not over there. And so it's an economic decision too, how much you're willing to spend to get 12 new customers. Anyway.
And how complicated that's gonna be for the authority?
Yeah, well, it's a serious discussion we need to have. And
But I'm still trying, I reached out to Paulding County because I found a document on their website, but it was a dated document, and come to find out that's no longer valid. So before I come to the planning committee with any recommendation, I wanna make sure I kinda know what the surrounding municipalities are doing, because, and then obviously get Stephanie to make sure we're not about to step on something.
All right.
Monitor into it.
That's
Mo- Moving on, the Allen Smith Consulting for the Pine Tree Hill area.
So we reached out to Debbie, and Deborah basically gave us some recommendations. They looked at that area, this would be 2 or 3 times.
2 times.
2 times, and she said that she would recommend getting with Department of Public Health and seeing if there's any current septic issues. So I reached out to Kelly, and she's currently pulling all the stuff that she has files on, because we're gonna have to show documentation of current problems and not, it can't be past problems that have been rectified. So I don't know if, do you know of any ongoing problems?
Oh, no, because what people have done, and I have been trying to say, not do, they just go ahead and get their problems fixed without reporting it.
And that could end up hurting that area.
In fact, it has,
Yes, ma'am.
because I know a couple people spent thousands of dollars to get things done, but they didn't report it.
So let's see what Department of Public Health has. And then we can kind of give Deborah a rundown of what we're currently in possession of. And then maybe we have another discussion to see if maybe we just go walk the area. If you think there's the physical evidence that we could take pictures of.
Yes, okay, but what about income level? Is that gonna be a part?
It will. To get CDBG DCA funding, it will.
But you're talking about, see, the funding plus other problem areas, you're saying. It's gonna be a twofold thing this time rather than one?
The income for the grant and then the problems.
So, yes, so she said if you could document the problems, then she would recommend paying the fee to get the survey out there, and then to go through and look at all the income levels at that time. Because if we do it right now, she was like, one, they don't have the staffing for it. We would have to train staff here to go do the survey. So she was like, before that effort's undertaken, let's just see what the need is right now with septic tank records. Because that's not costing us anything. We just submitted requests to the Department of Public Health. And Kelly as, she told me yesterday that she's currently assimilating everything she has.
All right. We talked about our last meeting auditing our industrial customers that become city customers, so where are we on that?
So the city of Griffin has done a cursory review of the industrial accounts. And I've seen the list, and there appears to be 4 customers that are being charged city of Griffin rates that actually fall under Spalding County domain. I told them before, so the reason why I don't have any data right now is Brandon hasn't had time to talk with the or the city manager yet. She's been tied up doing budget stuff until the 16th of May. But I'm in the process, I'm waiting for the file to be sent to me. I wanna look at, show you a breakdown of what their current bill is versus what it will be under a county rate. Because there are a couple of manufacturers that would be deemed pretty severely, where in the event of a course of a month, if they hit over 100,000 gallons over the month, an industrial rate is actually a decreasing tier. So to understand the magnitude of what the hit will be to their pocketbook, I wanna kinda look at that metric. There will be some savings on the base rate, because we don't charge an enormous base rate like the city of Griffin does. We just charge the $13.71. So before, I just want apples to apples to look at.
And this is important for you because there were representations made to these companies about utilities and rates and so on. And we don't want to pick a big fight with one of these companies that, but you promised this rate and now you're doing this. Because those representations sometimes I think are in writing even. So I just want you forewarned that a lot of them aren't living up to the city numbers that they get their rate. So like Joe just said, we want to look at this carefully before we stir up some problems.
How much money we're talking about?
If I said anything, it could be way out of left field.
If they hit 100,000 gallons, it's an industrial customer, right?
Right.
No,
Isn't it
100,000 gallons a day.
Per day?
Per day. That is the
So these-
industrial classification in our contract.
These people are dinging, what, 100,000 a month?
Yes, if they get 100,000 gallons a month, they actually get a decreasing tiered structure, which is, it's like a little over $7 a thousand. And then it goes, it's still in the $7 range. It's not an enormous amount of money that they're, but the city of Griffin's the only municipality in the state that has a decreasing tier rate structure for industrial.
So.
Yeah, most people go up.
Correct.
I
And
think-
these representations are always in writing. They're not sometimes in
Okay.
writing, so.
Well, I think you bring up probably the key point here is, if you look at the money, is it worth a fight to even start?
Yeah, well, if they're doing 100,000 gallons a month, we're talking less than $4,000 for each the 4 customers. But if we're talking $40,000 or $50,000 a month, well, that's our money.
Well, I can tell you,
That's
Yeah,
my
well, you're right.
stance on
We
it.
need
is,
to look at the money.
is it Moroccan?
Maricon.
Maricon?
Mm-hmm.
They're using probably 60,000 a day. So that's gonna be that's a substantial. But this leads to a different topic where we had a request to do a water availability letter for 2 properties on Jackson Road. Well, they're in our service area, but Jackson Road Elementary is in our service area as well, but they're not our customer. So, sorry about that.
You don't like that pen, do
So
you?
I asked Brandon to look at it and clarify that in fact is a county customer and make sure it's classified that way. So I think we're gonna end up opening this thing up to do a full-blown audit of all the customers, because I don't think we're getting everything that we're owed, and I don't think the city's getting everything that they're owed. So there could be some swaps that take place. But that's something that they're currently looking at right now. But then the question arises, okay, if we go under that effort and we spend the money to audit their files and get it cleaned up, how do we ensure that it's gonna stay clean from here on out? Because we have no personnel over there. I don't know what that
We
looks
have
like.
57% of that department.
I-
Is that not correct? We pay 57% of that entire department, like 100 employees, even though I can't count more than 60.
Yeah, I don't
But
know.
they're not ours,
Yeah, I don't know how
We're
that,
still paying 57%.
but they're not ours, they don't speak for us.
I think, I
Well,
don't know, it's almost like the water authority could have the way of looking at, I guess, cross-referencing the Spalding County service area and GIS addresses with the building, the current customer services, the total service, but we would have to have a clean database where you look at Cogsdale addresses, they do not match what's in GIS.
We need our own GIS system, is what you're saying.
That will be key.
that's
Yes.
another conversation we're having. Well, I don't want to dwell on this because we're not going to solve this, but just want you to know that this is another thing that,
Yeah, we're working on it.
Working on.
We should have information for the next month's meeting, hinging on the fact that Brandon can have the discussion with Jessica.
Jessica. All
on the
right,
16th.
what, the sewer plant outfall.
So we were hoping to start pumping out the existing wastewater in the plant this week. The city of Griffin's doing some testing. They asked us to wait, so we should start pumping out the wastewater next week sometime. And we're beginning the process to get everything out of that plant for when decommissioning happens. The contractor's ready to go.
We're pumping out to where?
Down the outfall. We worked out a deal with the city of Griffin saying, hey, do you mind if we pump 40 gallons a minute over 5 hours a day?
Pump the
And,
sludge out.
yeah, pump the existing wastewater out. We've had it tested. They say it meets it's not gonna hurt their plant in any way, and they said that's not a problem. I told them it would actually benefit you, because right now,
Yeah.
they don't have enough flow going down that line to clean it.
This is not the customer, this is stuff that's already in the plant.
I know.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
so we got to clean that
It's all
out.
the stuff that
I
just doesn't
understood
go
that, but I
away.
was wondering.
Yes, we're gonna put it down the outfall.
Well, they can go through their basin and they can press it and they can get rid of it, you know, so.
Correct.
Plus, it actually would help their oxidants.
Absolutely.
Okay, the RFQ, we had 3 contractors in here at the 2 o'clock hour talking about our RFQs.
Yes, and they validated our approach. They said that the approach that we're taking is a really good approach. They've seen where municipalities go in and they ask for I guess, a real granular level of detail. And I think everybody agreed that by keeping it very high level right now, and then working towards a feasible plan is a good option. So, we got good feedback. Right now, it's Paragon, Goodwill Mills and Kaywood, and Gresham Smith. I know Turnip Seed Engineering is gonna provide a proposal. Steve said Falcon Engineering may. And I reached out to Hazen and Sawyer, asking them if they saw the RFQ, and they looked at it, but they said that they don't, based on their current staffing levels, they wouldn't feel confident to be able to put the effort and the resources available to it if they did get the project. So I told them, I said, thanks for the honesty.
I don't know if you know what we're talking about, you have part of this, the RFQ,
Yeah.
where to put sewer.
Right.
So
Yeah.
if we have 4 or 5 engineering companies willing to bid on looking at this thing, get us started, we can't figure it out ourselves, so.
Right.
So that's a great starting point, I think. So I was pleased that we had 3 here and a couple more considering it. So we'll have theoretically some proposals to look at here. June 15th is the
June 15th.
cutoff date.
So we will need a selection committee, some evaluators. So I don't know if we want to, do we need to put that out at the board level?
Yes.
Okay.
So Ms. Delaney is vice chair here. One of the things coming out of this committee today is to pick those people that are going to evaluate these RFQs when they come in. And I want to be on that board, I won't be at the next meeting, I'm in annual training in Athens. So if you'll do that report, but we need people to meet with them and evaluate their proposals.
I'll need to talk to Miss Wyndham before I can volunteer. I may have conflicts.
Okay. And by the way, you're gonna make the committee report on this meeting next time, so,
Oh, see, I am.
yeah. Cause like I say, I won't be there, so you as vice chair, we're gonna make our committee report, and we'll need to move it up in the agenda like we did last time to make the committee report. All right, new business. Potential development along AKB, Arthur K. Bolton corridor, and Chuck was kind enough to agree to come in to represent the industrial authority and their interest.
Represents a strong word. Represents a strong word.
That trap door lower.
All right. And as I said earlier, Mitchell here has property down in the Tri-County area, which is one of the 4 possible areas. So, you wanna tell them what you've learned, starting with this thing?
Correct. So a developer that is currently working in close proximity to the Spalding Butts line has other properties along AKB and other parts of the county that they're looking at. But this one, it's gonna be a big warehouse again. It's a pretty big building. So the question that I asked was, what type of water demand and sewer demand? And honestly, there's not a lot of sewer. Well, more questions, the deeper I got into it, the reason why all these developments require sewer is because of the funding that they get through investors. Somebody, they said back in the 70s or 80s, when they put this language together, said that it has to have sewer, public sewer. It can't have septic. So that's why there's that big push for all these businesses, regardless of the need or not, to need sewer to put their building up. I asked them about their time frame, and they said that 2023, 2024 time period. I told them about the RFQ that we currently had out. I asked them if putting a septic tank in day 1 could be an option if sewer became available at a later date, and they said that is doable. So I think we have a roadmap of how we can kind of get over this hurdle until we get a feasible plan to start implementing. So that's kind of, I think this is the same developer that we talked about at the last meeting on the other piece of property on south of 16 around the High Falls area. So it looks like everything's trending just like the RFQ we put out along east on AKB. So we're gonna have a plan. I guess I'm now falling on the Wade wagon and saying, maybe it's not time to give up any surface area to the city if we can produce a plan that we can implement in a timely manner.
We talked about package plants a long time ago. Are package plants a viable short-term solution?
So I think yes. And the reason why, if the authority or the municipality goes down that road, yes. If it's a private entity, no, because they're gonna put that 150,000 gallon a day threshold. But if you municipality, I think we can make a case to the state saying, to make this thing work, and as long as we put a plan going forward of how it would be expanded, and we're not just saying, hey, we're gonna put this little package plan in today, and then we're gonna put another package plan over here where we say we're gonna put it in a smart location that can be expanded. I think the state would work with us. I think there's options.
Basically put the package plant where we would put a sewer plant.
I believe so, yes. So I think it is.
What's the cost of a package plant?
I mean,
Ballpark.
if you ran based on current day numbers of $20 a gallon, there's some package plant providers, Steve gave me a price from a person he knows where they said it was $1 million for 150,000 gallons a day.
150,000?
Yeah.
You know, excuse me, someone made a presentation to this group.
Mhm.
They gave us
Aqua,
some figures.
Aqua Point?
Aqua Point did,
Aqua
yeah.
Point,
Yeah.
yes.
Well, let me say this.
No, Aqua Point had presented smaller than what the state
But I was saying,
officially allows.
Yeah, they can go bigger, but they just showed us a smaller one. I believe, to the best of my knowledge, Sun City plant has roughly $7 million of equipment, tanks, pumps, everything, plus some land. So, and that handles all theirs out there, and it's one of those like Aqua Point, you add tanks, they're modular, you can just keep growing the thing, and they're about to grow it again, because they're gonna run some lines out from Sun City to other people. So, they have pretty good authority. They have about $7 million worth of equipment and some land. So, that is not a lot of money to put in a plant to service an area. That's a
Yes,
doable number.
industry.
Yeah, to get industry or keep folks like him
Right.
happy down there.
Right.
Are they spraying there or are they discharging?
No, they do it to gray water, which goes to the golf course.
Okay.
So they charge them to take the sewer, and then they get paid for the gray water for the irrigation on the golf course and the property, so.
The state's wanting to go back to single point discharge again though, so I don't know,
Well, all we have to do is put it on the stream.
yeah. I
And-
don't know if spraying is, you may, I don't know, Joseph may know better. You may be able to get it right now, but you're eventually gonna have to do away with it.
Well, personally, I think it's better just to put it in the stream, because
So-
you don't have to have all that land for a spray field. You could put this thing on a few acres.
Yeah.
They have 27 acres out there. They own I've told the sewer plant. So, if you pick the place down on, what's that, Cabin Creek, where you put a big plant
Mhm.
and build a small package plant, you could handle a lot of these light industrial jobs for a few $1 million. Or again, the Tri-County area a plant down there would handle whatever else left to develop probably. So,
And how long would it take to put one of those in?
Well, if it doesn't drain, you're gonna have to pump it, so it's more than just a plant.
Yeah, but I'm time frame.
Anytime you have to go to the state for a permit, the waste oil allocation, if you asked them today, you're probably talking 6 months. To get the loadings that your plant would be designed to. We could talk to the reps and say, hey, worst case scenario, let's plan for reuse water quality. Because there's nothing that's gonna be tighter than reuse water. Reuse water, whenever you see that term, it's water that you could take and irrigate your lawn with. You can't water your crops, you can't drink it, but it has great nutrients.
Right.
That for your grass, you wouldn't need any company to come fertilize. So that's the benefit of reused water, but it takes area, because now you have to have a reject pond. So in the event that the water quality doesn't meet the standards, it bypasses the outfall to the creek and goes into a reject pond that then could be pumped back into the plant once you get it optimized again and discharged to the creek.
so I'm hoping on this RFQ, this very question is one of them that's out there. If we build some relatively inexpensive, smaller plants, could that fix our problem until we
Make it quicker.
make it quicker? Well, Aqua Point with Air said, time you get permitting and order stuff, construction, you're looking at a couple of years, inside of 2 years. So,
So I think a lot of these discussions could be had once we select a consultant for the feasibility study, where, one thing is, if there is a way to sewer North Expressway and it ends up being the best possible place to take it to Sun City Peachtree, maybe that's the time we have the conversation of, do we want to do the due diligence on that plant to see if it's even worth our time? But there's also a flip side to that is, at some point, that plant may become our domain anyway by default. Because if they can't maintain it and they don't want it anymore, it will, the Spalding County is the one that signed the trust indenture, correct? So Spalding County would then in turn give it to us. So,
Hate to pay something for something you might get for nothing.
If they're like other, I do a lot of work around Georgia, like Forsyth has 10 package plants, basically package plants. Developers come in, put them in for neighborhoods and stuff. Gonna do all the great things. Neighborhood got built out, that LLC went bankrupt, and it became Forsyth County's problem for nothing.
Yeah.
Personally, I see no reason to pay them for something that's eventually gonna be ours.
so I think we'll know more in the feasibility, project.
You wanna comment about what you see coming or anything out there?
Other than just what you said in not so many words, and that is that obviously what we see as our best opportunity for industrial growth is continue eastward. Arthur K. Bolton, the citizens, when they supported the last SPLOST, I think that's what they said when, you know, we had all of the hoopla and controversy over Wallace Road, and then when we came back for the SPLOST in, Lord, what year was that, 2008 maybe? Time flies when we're all having fun, doesn't it? Yeah, that was part of the message that I think the voters brought back, was that we think the place for industrial growth is to continue out Arthur Bolton, contiguous to the industrial areas we already have. The most readily available property to us is probably the property that adjoins us. We're familiar with the project that Joseph mentioned, that's south of Arthur Bolton, that has some,
On the road, ain't it?
yeah, I think it's about at that location, that has, I think I've heard $1.5 million of logistics type space potentially. You know, there has been talk of a potential other solution there whereby the developer might be willing to come westward with sewer if they could get to us, which then obviously though that then brings in the city again. So, you know, we're sewer agnostic, you know, I mean, really. But we're also about realizing that the lack of infrastructure has been an impediment for us to be able to attract growth.
Well, you're not familiar with anybody coming, maybe you are, I don't know, big water users. So these warehouse things that are in
Right.
vogue today don't use much water, so it's hard to justify a lot of money on water lines and sewer lines.
That was exactly why when we heard that the developer that's looking at this $1.5 million had intimated that perhaps they would fund a sewer line coming westward, we're like, well, there's not gonna be a lot of affluent created there anyway. It's not like the Spalding County Water and Sewer Authority is missing this huge revenue opportunity. So that again, that's why that to us seemed like it made a bit of sense, because we're not talking about a lot of revenue opportunity anyway.
Well, here's what we're getting into.
It all adds up in the end, that's
Yeah.
the problem.
Here's what gets into, because we discussed this in general at our last meeting, and we have a couple different opinions. One is, no, we're not gonna give the city our service area. The other end of that is, what's the big deal for a few warehouses, and it benefits the county, let them have it. But the downside, and I'm kind of in favor, the city wants to run a line out there and pick a sewer up, the county gets this big warehouse and jobs, that's fine. However, I'll tell you, Wade's on the other end of this thing, and he has a point that I think is valid, because if we decide to build a package plant out there on the Cabin Creek, all of a sudden, our revenue right here, our first business, is not our customer anymore, so we don't have anybody to put in the plant to start the payments.
And that goes back to my whole point about being provider agnostic. If that is y'all's near-term plan, I hate to use long-term, because I don't have a lot of long-term left in there.
Yeah.
But, if that is in the near, more power, more
The
power to
problem we
you.
have is sewer is, hopefully you break even.
Mhm.
Nobody actually does. They usually lose money on it. And they offset those losses through water sales. we're in a position where we don't make our own water, we buy it from the city of Griffin at a fairly high rate. We only make 30 cents a 1,000 gallons is all we're getting in revenue off that water we sell. And, without that buffer where we're making the water for $2.50 a thousand and selling it for $7, without that buffer, we can't cover those losses. So if we keep seeding things or giving service areas or giving up customers, at some point, future or sewer is not gonna be viable for the Spalding County Water Authority. It's just not. It's not gonna be financially viable. We'll wind up bankrupt. Or if we go full-fledged into sewer, the reality is gonna hit everyone. It's gonna be undeniable. We're gonna have to go build our own water plant, and I don't know what that's gonna do to the financial situation of the city of Griffin, because we are the largest customer. 'Cause we can't charge people $14 a thousand, when Barnesville can charge $3. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's a fine line there, that if we're gonna do sewer, which it's inevitable, it's gonna have, Spalding County's gonna be sewer, but we have to be able to financially afford it, you know, and without us selling the water, that creates a problem. We don't have that big extra cash revenue. We're literally making 30 cents a thousand. That's all we get. And that's where, if we keep, you know, warehousing, it ain't gonna amount to nothing. It's probably gonna be a drop in the bucket to the payment of a sewer system or a sewer plant. But if we keep giving up these customers one by one, we keep having these little congressional district type
Gerrymanders.
carve-outs, we're not gonna be able to do nothing.
Right. No,
It's gonna hamstring us.
I understand your point.
So, you know, these sound like simple decisions, and they're anything but that.
Oh, yeah.
So, that's what
Well,
we're
and
agonizing
if I had
over.
$1 for every meeting that I've sat in where there's been talk of package plants and there's been talk of countywide sewer, I mean,
Me too.
I'd probably be retired by now.
I could give you 20 years of these. But
I
this-
would
this-
love to convey it to the city of Griffin.
Mhm.
That's what the ideal situation in my mind is. We can put the lines in, because that's not a big outlay of cash. We're not paying for plants, we're not paying for labor, we're not paying for the electricity, the chemical. We can convey it to the city of Griffin. But Brant's current position is anything attaches to his system is gonna become his. Well, we're not gonna pay for the infrastructure for the city of Griffin.
Right.
And if there was enough business there to justify paying for that infrastructure, I'm pretty sure the city of Griffin would already be doing it. So that's where we're at right now, but Joseph is the expert massager that he is. He's working on this situation for us.
Well, let me say this. Let's talk about this convey
Use
thing,
the
because
middle finger.
some of what you said disturbs me. I've said, I don't particularly want to be in the sewer business. I just assumed the city had the sewer business. But we can't pay it, like you said, just give it to them. However, if we had a capacity recovery fee, and we sold the capacity as people hooked onto it like the city does, and we got our money back from the sale of the capacity recovery, and we got our money back, I'd have no problem giving it to them, let them operate it. But there has to be some mechanism
That's viable to me too. I
where
just
we,
haven't seen
where
one
we
paper.
get our money back, and a capacity recovery fee would do that for us, and we wouldn't be in the sewer business, they could run the sewer
All right,
business.
and to make sure in my simple mind, I could that I understand what that would look like, is obviously the purpose in the city's sewer capacity recovery fee is to pay for the upgrades and the continued operation of the end processing plant, for the most part.
Upgrades.
Upgrades.
Their revenue should, their monthly bill should cover
Pay
their
for the operation,
and
but for the
maintenance.
upgrade, right?
Correct.
Yeah, I'm
Yes,
with
sir.
you on that. So, and what you're talking about is a capacity recovery fee to recover the infrastructure cost, basically of the pipe. The
Or-
transmission to.
Pipe and
Or,
lift
Yes,
station.
right,
or
right.
a
Or lift
package,
station,
or a
right.
package plant, whatever.
So, again, back to my simplified mathematic way of looking at it then. So if right now, what the city is anticipating, projecting that they need in a sewer capacity recovery fee is $400 for that upgrade, ongoing upgrades to the plant. What you'd be looking at is something less than that to recoup the cost of sewer capacity recovery fee to the end user then, instead of being $400, is now $450. 50 of that's coming to the Water Authority for
And the Griffin would get
recovery of
theirs.
costs, and then Griffin gets theirs.
Correct.
Yeah, some combo.
Mhm.
Very well could be something that could be worked out.
Mhm.
See,
The math person over there who buys calculus books has to figure that one out.
Yeah, and that's what I say, to me, well, this whole discussion about water contracts and everything has always been just math. I mean,
Mhm.
it's just math. I mean, there are components, and each component has a
That's
value,
just- that's
and you
our
add
only-
them up.
That's
and-
our only source of money. We
Right,
can't,
right.
we can't raise property
well,
tax or
the,
anything
the,
like
the,
that.
the good news is, there was a time, you walked over there, it was hell no, but Brant and I have had several discussions, and I know Joseph's been involved, but they're willing to look at these things and consider it, and if it makes financial sense to them, they have no problem with it. It's so the personal unwillingness to even cooperate is, I think, gone. So-
Diminished.
Diminished anyway, not gone, diminished. That's right. But both sides have to satisfy their business model.
Right, right.
And I don't see any reason a capacity recovery fee, if we're giving them new plants and new pipes, they don't need a lot of capacity recovery fee because it's gonna be years before that needs upgraded. So the immediate cost is gone. So, like you say, this is arithmetic.
Mhm. And I was never very good at math, I'll be the first to admit, but I know how it works.
It's English too, it's not just math.
You could talk about costs and so forth. One time, we bandied around somehow the idea of the county and the city paying part of this by giving us a fee, like a millage.
That's right. Some places have done that. The county gives the water authority a millage rate to, a mill to start doing things,
Kind of like a tax fire
So-
district or something.
like the fire district tax.
Henry County Water Authority's that way.
Yeah, they get funded with a millage rate,
Oh, there's
What is
many
a mill
development
rate?
authorities get.
whatever you choose.
No, I mean, what is the millage, what does one mill generate? Do you know?
It was about $1.5 million, I think, at one point, but I'm not sure.
We looked at,
Okay.
didn't you pull some files from William, and it came out to be, when, at the time that we looked at, what, 2017, it was around like $900,000,
Okay.
1 mil.
They should know the changes.
But if like, I mean, if the benefit is gonna be something the school will reap,
Mhm.
something that the county will reap, could they each give us a half a meal?
I think that's a fair ask, because this is for the good of the county. I get it's for the good of the county. I live here too, but the authority only makes money from selling water. That's our only source of revenue.
No, I'm talking about to pay for some of this infrastructure.
That's what I'm talking about.
Mhm.
I think it's a fair ask for them to kick us
Well,
some of that tax money to help
you,
line their pockets in the future,
I
basically.
remember when we did the fire tax millage rate, build a fire system. A lot of people were really upset, and actually, I think there's a couple of commissioners end up not getting reelected because there's a new tax. So it's a very tough political thing for commissioners who actually want to continue the job. It's a new tax.
What if it were just put into the-
But if the voters out there understood the financial revenue coming in because of these new jobs and buildings was reducing their tax rate ultimately, but they don't understand that. It's just a new tax.
But what if it's part of their budget?
Well, or if you looked at it as, they didn't raise the millage rate this year, but they're expecting an increase in tax revenue because all the values went up, right now would be the time to be asking for a share of that money. Because that does not put any politicians in any precarious situations.
Well, I agree with you. This is a political equation that, and so, but I do think there's a real serious business case to be made to give us a millage rate of some sort, something, maybe not a mill, half a mill or something, to bring this county up to infrastructure standards for our own financial viability, simple as that.
Well,
Now,
I don't have a dog or a fight, but I will tell you that the shared services agreement that was signed a gazillion years ago when the city and county negotiated the funding of the Development Authority, that very document provided that the county would provide up to 1 mil of property tax for support of the Development Authority. And you you know, coming through the economic downturn, we went through a long period where we received no county funding. We were surviving off of reserves left over from land sales from the Green Valley Park. So we made that suggestion, was, you know, based upon what was in the original shared services agreement, based upon our budget, and I want to say it was $1.2 million was what we were told at that point was the estimated value of a mill.
Well, what the number we were looking at, there was something that was included that had to be taken out if you wanted a water.
I got you.
Yeah.
I got you. So what we had figured, what we had backed into was, okay, the shared services agreement referenced up to 1 mil. We think 1/3 of a mil would be sufficient to support the development authority. And we would even suggest that instead of just coming in the front door and asking for this 1/3 of a mil, 10 basis points this year, 20 basis points next year, 30 basis points by the 3rd year, and 30 basis points thereafter, so that they could mill that into their budgeting
Yeah.
and
Instead of a
expectations,
separate tax.
if you will, and, well, the podium's not here anymore. I didn't get much past the podium with that conversation.
I was there in those days, I remember all that, yeah.
Well, now, I will say, in fair, and I realize this is not a county commission meeting, we appreciate the fact that they have restored our funding since then. We are most appreciative of that.
But there's another side to this, what do you call that? I call it TARP money, TARP money, what's the money that they got?
ARPA.
ARPA money. And the county still has quite a few $1 million of ARPA money. So, in my optimistic opinion, if we had a project, just say a package plant out here for the industrial park growth, or a project to take from the Tri-County area and pump it over to Potato Creek, let's say it's $4 million to $10 million or something. I see no reason you couldn't go to the county and say, this is a perfect use for your ARPA money because of what it does to the,
Sounds great,
The
but
ti-
isn't there a time limit on that?
no, they got the money.
Okay. I thought we had to let them know that
Oh,
there's a
yeah,
period of
you
time.
were
Well, there-
correct.
there-
They did say there's a time limit for us to get our
Yeah.
request.
Oh, you mean, okay, I thought you meant, I understand what you.
To make the request.
To make the request.
For us to
Yes.
ask for it, basically,
Yeah,
which I
so-
thought Clay was taking care of.
See, that's why I think this RFQ is important to get this thing done, because if we have a project that makes sense, these guys, you run to the county and say, look, you got that ARPA money sitting there and you want a good project that benefits this county, give us this sewer plant for $8 million or project,
Give us the thing to pump it to Potato Creek for $5 million or.
whatever, and I think we'd get a very favorable hearing at the county commission, and I believe Steve, manager.
So we still gotta work out that giving it to the city business.
Well, if it's free to us,
True.
if it didn't cost us anything, and you turned over the county to operate, or city to operate, I mean, these are all things you gotta negotiate,
Yeah.
but those are logical paths. I know there's speed bumps on everything,
Yeah.
but you can't keep sitting here as a county commissioner and saying, hell no, we're not paying for any sewer, and let our economy,
Yeah.
the good growth go around us, because we can't have a sewer plant.
Yeah, we need to get it started and we need to get a request into them quickly.
And,
Excuse me, but what happens if, Chip just mentioned how the development authority got some money, so if they're gonna, allow monies for one authority, why not for another?
well, I agree.
Well,
Especially like-
that was, again, that goes
I
back.
know
to
that was
the-
a long time ago, but that would be setting a precedent, it's already happened.
Especially
Yeah, but
like-
what I'm making reference, I'm not talking about an allocation for capital investment. What I'm talking about is back when, what was it, House Bill, whatever, Stephanie, do you remember the one that said there could be no duplication
Yeah,
of?
House Bill 487.
487, was that it? I should have known you'd remember that. Prior to that time, so the Griffin Spalding Development Authority was formed as just that, a joint development authority of Griffin and Spalding County. At that point, they shared in the funding of the operating cost of the authority. when House Bill 487 came into effect, there were various restrictions about basically
Double taxation.
double taxation on the citizenry. Couldn't be, both bodies couldn't be paying for the same thing,
Right.
basically, is, I guess, is the simplistic way that I think about it.
But then,
So they negotiated this shared services agreement, and as part of that shared services agreement, the city of Griffin at that point, I believe, took on operational funding of the airport for the most part, and the county took on funding for the development authority. And that's just operational dollars. That's just keeping the lights on.
Right.
Well, when you talk about what a mill is worth, what
Just
you
say a
alluded to.
million. Yeah, $1 million.
Yeah, it was over $1 million. However,
from, something.
and this is what happened with the Development Authority, the people in the city, and I was part of that, because I was a city resident, and I was involved in that House Bill 487 movement. Because I wrote a pretty serious letter with the math, but I'm sitting in the city, I'm paying my county taxes, which is paying for the Development Authority, and I'm paying my city taxes, which is paying for the Development Authority. I'm paying twice, and the people of the county are paying once. And that became a big GMA fight, and said you can't pay, if you're a city resident, on both sides.
Right, double taxation.
Duplication service, so that made sense. So when you say what's a mill of tax for us worth, you could not go to the city residents and take a mill of tax from them
No.
for the county sewer, because they're paying for the sewer in the city probably. So you're only gonna get the county residents.
Well,
So
the
that's why a
other-
mill of tax is not a full mill of tax, because you have to subtract the city people out.
Well, you could get them to put it in your budget, and you get it in the school system's budget, you'll get it from city and county. People, not money from the city, but you'll be taxing, because school tax is on everybody,
Yes, yes. Well,
but that would be in the
here's
budget.
the problem, because the county and the schools would raise their millage rate to do this, and people raise hell with them because they're raising their taxes. So if you put it in a separate tax, you go, we're not raising your taxes, that's them. It's politically more digestible.
And doesn't our school board already approach the statutory limit?
I believe so.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, I think they're close.
As a matter of fact, I think they went over it 1 year.
Okay, so anyway, we're weighing this, but we got an idea, this is one of our projects, and there are ways to skin this cat if these RFQ engineers give us some intelligent projects where to start.
Correct.
We have possibilities of different things.
Tell them we need it quickly, so we can.
All right.
get it done.
All right, let's talk about personnel matters, because as Joseph will probably tell you in a few minutes.
Do you mind if I slip out on?
No, we put you first in case you had to leave,
Thank y'all.
so, thank you. I appreciate you coming, Chuck.
Oh, sure,
Thank you.
sure. Sorry David couldn't be here. He was en route to Macon. For some reason, he had you on the calendar for next, y'all normally meet on the next Wednesday? for your
Next
regular-
Wednesday is our board meeting.
Okay, I think that's what he had on his calendar.
Okay,
At least that was his story.
all right.
10 minutes for free.
Okay,
See y'all.
I would say, speaking for Joseph before he speaks, he has found a real problem with personnel and state of affairs. And he needs more better trained personnel to maintain our water system. He has done 2 job descriptions. One is where we were, before we did the director, this is the water distribution systems supervisor, because the people he have are coming up for retirement, and he's written these job descriptions, and a utility construction coordinator, which is another job that's a little higher than anything out there probably. And he has to start filling these jobs before these retirements, which could happen soon. Plus, we need to upgrade the qualifications for these jobs because our maintenance is not where it should be. Is that a fair statement?
Correct. So after, I meet with the staff every week, and So we have, it's myself, Charlie, and Tim Granger, Greg Ballard, and Greg Elliott. So we have 5 people, and we have 2, 4, 5 inmates we use on a regular basis. So after talking with the staff there, a couple of them gave me indication that they knew when they were gonna be retiring, and it looked like in the next 12 to 18 months. Well, one of them's gonna retire as early as August 1st of this year. So here lies the problem. If that gentleman retired today, the water authority would no longer have the ability to install new water taps. He's the only one that's knows how to run a piece of equipment, run the tapping machine, all that stuff. So we could be in a pinch pretty quick. Well, then I just started thinking, okay, well, there's no order of command. All the employees now are coming to me for questions. There's no supervisor out there. So I kind of had the feeling that was gonna be the case when I got here. But then when I started looking at the current needs of the authority, we don't have anybody that's managing inventory. We don't have anybody that's overseeing work, scheduling work, tracking work in a work order system, making sure developments that are approved, water lines are being constructed in accordance with the plans. The plan review that's being done is very basic. It's, do they have details? Do I understand? Do they have fire hydrants where they need to be? Nobody is checking to see, one, what the fire flow requirement for the development is. Does it adhere to the fire spec? So reason why that is a big deal to me is Mr. Maurer goes in and develops 100 acres and puts in 1,000 homes. That 1,000 homes says in the fire code that it needs to have, say, 1,250 gallons a minute at each fire hydrant. As soon as we accept that water line, we just now accepted the fact that it meets our standard and it meets all these specifications. Well, no engineer, I can't find any documentation where any engineer is providing a fire flow analysis for a development showing the fire flow at a worst case hydrant. So nobody's verifying that the plan is in accordance with any capital improvement plan that the water authority has. So that water model, we have a model that says, okay, in 2020, we needed a 20-inch line, this 10-inch line needed to be upgraded to a 20-inch. Well, any plan that comes in should be reviewed against what the future needs are. And we could make the developer say, okay, well, you say you need an 8, we need the 12, we'll pay the difference between the 8 and 12 and you put it in. Now, the water authority is putting a little bit of money in there, but not carrying the whole load. So it's smart money. Nobody's doing fire flow tests. So our development spec says the developer, we require a 24-hour flow test done. We say, we'll do it for you. We don't even have the equipment to do it. So we're running into there's a lot of things that is under our responsibilities on the day-to-day that we physically don't have the staff to do, because one, if Tim Granger gets deployed to go inspect water lines being installed in Sun City, he's not installing taps, he's not answering my questions, he's not doing any type of plan review, he's not counting inventory, he's not making sure that the water meters that we have in stock are gonna be sufficient to take us the next 8 months. Because we got a note from Neptune saying, if you want meters, you better put in an order now, because you're gonna be 6 months delayed.
Okay, my question then is this, are we talking about hiring to replace 2 people or to replace 2 people plus a person?
These are 2 brand-new jobs.
Okay. Will either one of those be in place of one that is retiring?
No, these are 2 brand-new positions. I'm gonna have a conversation with Greg Elliott, because he could be repurposed from the wastewater plant into the water. I wanna see if he's willing to learn how to run a tractor, because I think he could potentially start migrating into that. if the gentleman retired today, I believe we have adequate support. Adequate support's the wrong word. I think I have a pool of employees that I could grab to fill a void.
What does planning and zoning do?
Planning and zoning is responsible for E&S and making sure that the development does not violate any zoning ordinances. That if the
What about the building department?
building department's looking at COs,
Mhm.
looking at internal stuff.
Who reviews the plans people submit to get a permit and build something in Spalding County?
Well, I'll answer that, because I've been there and done that. The planning and zoning coordinates and chairs it, if you will. But the fire department comes in and checks your fire department stuff, the solid waste people come in, just like cities, some of us got in. And your water people come in and do it, the police department comes in. All the departments come in and sit down and review their portion of your plan.
The fire flow thing, I'm trying to figure out how that's our responsibility.
It's an hour, so the fire flow is a function of the diameter of the pipe.
Okay.
The fire hydrant is just the means in order for the water to get out for the fire department to tie to.
We haven't got to the fire hydrant discussion yet, have we?
No.
Okay.
So the fire flow will come from our line, it will not come from the fire hydrant.
So if these guys bring in plans, and like I say, I used to be a developer, I've drawn these plans, and nobody is looking at the water lines, or even if somebody approves them and you go out and they put them in, nobody is checking that you put them in per the plan sometimes.
Honestly, it sounds like to me, we actually need a third position. We need an on-staff engineer to handle that kind of stuff.
Well, he's got a,
I'm not sure what kind of equipment operator you're gonna get that's gonna be qualified to review that kind
No,
of stuff.
so,
this coordinator is what he's talking about,
yeah, the utility
coordinator.
construction coordinator,
Could review plans. This is the first shot of the two that he thinks he needs, start on or meet almost immediately.
So rather than 5 employees, you will have 7, what you're saying, basically, in your department.
yes, ma'am. And honestly, this is, unfortunately, these positions could have been used before now.
Yeah.
Because the development specifications need to be rewritten because they're very vague. They're not very specific. Come to find out, the materials that we specified in 2006, we don't even use.
2006?
2006, that's when it was approved.
So, and I'll wait for Cheryl, here's what I think we ought to do. He's desperate, I think, to start getting people.
Yep.
I think we need to, here's the job description on the water system supervisor. I personally think you need to find your supervisor now and let him help build his team. And how you can get him, when you have some people that are, quote, sort of doing some of these jobs, you gotta bring in somebody that can take charge and not run everybody else off because they think they're working for somebody, so.
But does he need somebody to dig holes before he needs a supervisor?
So if we can't,
We need somebody to put meters in.
yeah, if we can't, if I can't repurpose Mr. Elliott to run a piece of equipment, yes, we would need to bring on someone.
What is Mr. Elliott going to be doing?
Right now, he shows up to the plant every day to ensure that there's
Sewer
nothing.
plant.
Yeah, sewer plant, making sure that nothing's leaving the plant, because the DMR needs to read zero flow, because we're not doing any chemicals, we're not doing anything. Then he is working with, Mr. Granger on, transitioning into the water side. He's cutting the water tanks and helping cut the grass around all the facilities now. So, see, we cut our own grass. We handle all the maintenance of our building. Building maintenance really doesn't do anything inside our facility. We kind of do that ourselves, because we get it done faster.
So I think at this next meeting, we need a serious recommendation to allow him to start hiring some people, which will affect the budget naturally.
And
But it's, he's gone in a lot more detail with me. It's getting really scary.
Yeah, I can understand. So it's even on
I
the
mean,
first.
it's hard to find qualified people right now.
Yeah, trying to find somebody.
It's very, very difficult to do it.
So,
Well, I don't know if we'll get the finance committee meeting in a week.
correct.
It may have to just come as a discussion on the floor.
okay.
For our budget this year, I know we're at loss, but it included shutting down decommissioning the plant. That was one of the biggest dings.
Sure
Now,
did.
that's gonna go away next year, and the losses we've been suffering from that sewer plant is gonna go away, so we're gonna start paying all that money back.
So the money should be there.
And
Yeah,
now,
and we might have to dip into reserves to get us through this year, get more into reserves because of what we got.
well, if we didn't, change any mode of operation based on our fund balance in the operating account and the reserve account, we could operate for almost 600 days. So over 2 years.
We do our own GIS system. Is this gonna be the guy that's gonna operate it?
No, that is a guy that's going to help ensure that the water system assets are being adequately captured inside GIS.
Okay.
So,
So we're gonna be looking for another person.
to prop up a GIS department, you would need at minimum, a manager and a technician, an analyst.
Do we
Because
to
you're
make
gonna
a
need
motion on
someone
this
that
or something?
understands,
Do we need to make a motion on this?
Well, I think we need a recommendation. You want to start with two at once, or?
and so this is my fear, is if, in order to plug the gaps, I'm the one plugging the gaps. I'm afraid things are gonna start getting dropped and missed, and things are starting to come to the wayside where I'm trying to put a lot of benchmarks and metrics together, but with the developments that are ramping up and all the plans that are coming through, and I'm in a plan review meeting every week now that starts at 3 and it doesn't end until 5. Now they're talking doing pre-construction meetings twice a week, starting at 1:30 till 3 o'clock. I mean, my days are starting to get
So the
eaten
time we
up,
get these
eaten
people
too.
hired and get them onboarded, we're probably gonna be halfway through our fiscal year, so do we need to make a motion?
You want us, yeah, you want us to make a motion, we agree that we need to hire these two people now to pass on to the board?
Correct.
So
I'll
your
make that
motion would
motion.
be to recommend to the full board the hiring of these two
Yes,
positions?
that's what we're doing.
I would like to make a motion recommending to the full board that we add these two job positions at the Spalding County Water Authority and commence with the hiring procedure.
And I would suggest that you have cost to attach.
Yeah, and what I'm thinking, just right off the top of my head,
You want to
the
second that motion?
supervisor,
Stellini?
Yes, second.
I'm thinking, between both of them, 120. So this one 60 to 70, and that one's probably 40 to 50.
It's added cost for both of them.
Yes, ma'am.
As a side note, I think you're a little low, but anyways.
Well,
We got a
I'm-
motion in a second.
I agree. Any discussion?
I'm going on industry, what I'm seeing on the web right now.
All in favor,
understand.
please raise your hand. It's unanimous in the minutes that we're gonna make that recommendation, okay. We're gonna move on. The ad hoc committee meeting with the county fire department, you weren't here, were you?
No, I was, on vacation. I believe.
So, here's what we agreed to, and it's in the minutes. Basically, we're no longer funding their fire hydrants.
Well, that just saves us another $250,000 a year.
Yeah,
Let's hire 3 people.
so,
Well, I guess I can use that as an argument. Finance committee, but we have got $250,000 to save.
And I
Let's
didn't
give
buy
all of you a
capital
raise.
so, you don't happen to have that set of minutes, Andy, for the, anyway. The fire department agreed that buying fire hydrants for for fire department use mission is on them. Okay, so we are not going to do that. I'm gonna read you our,
I did read the minutes, you're doing that for my benefit.
well, I'm not gonna read the whole minutes, but anyway, here's the final thing that I would like the board to pass as a policy. Laura. It says, all persons agreed to the following. In the future, the Fire department will be responsible for purchasing any new fire hydrants being added to the water system for fire department mission purposes. Once added to the system, those hydrants will become Water Authority assets. In return, Water Authority will fund all hydrant maintenance and repairs. Additionally, the general manager will coordinate with the fire department to ensure hydrant maintenance and testing will be compatible with ISO directives.
Now, this would be outside of what a developer would be required to.
This is specifically for hydrants be put on existing lines to meet that maximum 500-foot gap.
Is that something that needs to be clarified, if this is gonna be some
No,
kind of policy?
No, well,
No? Okay.
Well,
we said, responsible, any new fire hydrants being added to the system for fire department purposes, and that's,
He already had it covered.
so,
but your intent was on existing lines, not on.
added, yeah. Well, also, but if we add a new.
Added to existing lines.
Yeah, but there's another piece of this. If, we discuss this, if we decide to add a line somewhere, for whatever reason, we have to put in certain fire hydrants as part of the,
They would supply for us.
no, the mandatory ones we have put in are on
meet the
us. But if they
development.
want extra fire hydrants for fire department, then they have to buy those, and we'll put them in
Right.
when we're adding a line.
They'll
But that's on
supply
them.
the fire hydrants to us.
Yeah.
For existing lines.
Right.
Any new line that the water authority extends, relocates, or upgrades, if it falls within our project limits, we'll put it in as part of our project. They're not gonna fund a fire hydrant, but if they go out and say, hey, on Jackson Road, we need 3 hydrants put on, okay, you're funding those.
We're out of the business of, well, we don't have the exact coverage we want. We're out of that
Correct.
business.
We're out of that business.
That's
Okay, I'm good with that.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I think we have an agreement, and they agreed to that amicably, but they just want us to know, once their hydrants go in our system, then all of a sudden, it's on us to maintain them.
Yeah, I think Joseph was pretty, well, I agree.
Yeah.
We don't want them trying to
No,
No.
bust
We don't
our
want them-
water lines.
So, that,
it's kinda like the. city
whoever
hall, but they
reports on
supervise.
that committee, needs to ask,
Why don't you ask Jeff to report on it?
okay,
The reason I say that is he needs to get some practice.
there you go, that's for, but, anyway, I'd like the board to adopt that as our policy.
Do we need to
So
make a
everybody-
motion? I'll make a motion that we recommend to the full board that we adopt the new fire hydrant policy.
There you go.
Well, that committee did that, so that committee's
Yeah,
recommending.
that
Oh,
committee's
okay.
gonna make the recommendation.
That committee will make the recommendation.
Good enough. I will withdraw that motion.
But-
This one.
Or
Just-
we
ju-
could make the recommendation to this one, and this one can make it to the board, whichever way you wanna do it.
And I think the ad hoc people did it,
Okay.
that committee. We just need to make sure that it gets done,
Okay.
okay?
Well, that's Joseph's problem.
Well, he can't make the motion, but that's a,
Well, he can get on the person who needs to make the motion.
there you go.
I don't mind making the motion, but
All right,
Are you on the ad hoc committee?
yes.
yeah.
Well, if you wanna make a motion and second it yourself and vote on it, we'll go ahead and roll this ball.
Don't think that's legal.
Okay, is there anything else you
It's not
want
in
to say?
Robert's rules, that's for sure.
Anything
It's
else?
more of a
you-
guideline.
All right, well, thank y'all. We ran pretty long, but I thought we had a lot to chew on. Let me ask you this. Why don't we make the Wednesday before the normal meeting just a fixed time for planning committee meeting if we need one?
If you do that, that's fine, but if you have something that has to go to finance before it goes to them.
Correct.
I won't have time to get it to finance.
Well,
And I'm thinking we could, maybe what we do is, right now, we'll do the standing Wednesday before. Going forward, once we start getting all the metrics in place where finance can, they'll have something to digest. Because right now, I'm still in the process of building her little dashboard. Because right now, all we're doing is looking at the reserve account, and based on historical operating days,
It's raining it.
yeah, we're at 198 days, and I thought 180 was the threshold,
Right.
so,
okay, so I just wanna get it where you have time. Is 2 weeks in the middle, is 2 weeks enough to get it together what we need, or do you need 3 for our planning department?
Should be every other month.
Well,
One committee to the other committee. What's the best way to?
Well, we got so much on our plate, we need to meet every month on planning, I think.
Finance only needs to meet when there's something that has to have dollars attached to it. There's no, I don't believe in making people meet just to.
so before how is the new, positions gonna affect, or would you?
It can be made directly to the full board, can it not? It doesn't have to come from finance.
No.
Okay.
I can just say finance has not had an opportunity to make a recommendation, but we're not gonna be putting in fire hydrants this year,
That's
so
right.
we can afford it.
See? Sounds
Well,
good to me.
let's leave it at the third Wednesday
Yes,
for the
that-
present, and just so the board members know, that's our day, and if for some reason we don't need to meet, we don't have to, but we,
It's the second Wednesday, isn't it?
this is the third, because next Wednesday's our board meeting.
So it'll be the third after the,
Third after a meeting, okay,
Yes.
I thought you meant.
So the
in a
Wednesday
month.
before the
You're gonna
meeting.
meet a week before the meeting.
Week
Charlie,
before
Charlie
meeting.
sends me an email. I'm not keeping up with all this.
Well, the Wednesday before
Yeah,
the meeting, just sort of our routine place, so we don't have to doodle all this all the time. And if there's some reason not to meet, well, we can
yeah.
do that, okay. All right, anybody want to say anything before we go, any comments, anybody?
I'd like to see if Joseph has any comments or any thoughts. I mean, he is the big boss. you know.
I'm commented out right now.
Ms. Perkins, you got anything you want to say?
I want to thank you for letting me join in this discussion. I've learned a lot.
I'd like to apologize for you having to come here and listen to all this.
I accept your apology.
Well, not only is it open meeting by law, but I've always been the person, if you want to come sit in a committee meeting and participate or listen, that's what it's for, so
It's
we got
exciting.
nothing to.
Nobody ever comes to our meetings.
Yeah, that's right.
It gives me a little more.
I come to your
insight.
meeting.
The general public. And every time you show up, you're hurt.
And the meetings
Not every time.
next Wednesday,
Always hurt.
on what's that, the third Wednesday of the month,
Correct.
are fixed too. You're always welcome to sit through them if you want to, but honestly, I think one of our problems is too few people that own property and want to do things have ever showed up anything and advocated, because you gotta keep the pressure on sometimes these boards and stuff to get anything done. But when people are out there chewing on them, then, so you need a bunch of allies.
I appreciate the opportunity. It's eye-opening to me. Y'all got a lot of stuff going on. Like you said, your plate's full.
Yeah, and it's a lot more complicated than people think. Okay, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So,
I'll second.
A second, all in favor, please rise and leave.
I need to talk to Stephanie.
She left, yeah.
Nice job, Joseph, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I think we are all impressed, maybe even stunned at all the things that you're trying to get done.